cluster in the middle. So you guys on that side, can you move over here? All right, great. While we're doing that, how many of you are doing a startup right now? Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you want to do a startup sometime in the future? All right. How many engineers are here? How many people engineers? All right, a lot of engineers. How many undergrads? Okay, a lot of undergrads. Grad students? Not in school, but all right, cool. And then you guys on the side, come here also. All right. Okay, so we have limited time today. They told me I have a hard stop at 1:55. So I'm gonna go through this fast, but today's talk is probably gonna be pretty different from the other things that you guys have seen. The idea here is that I want to show you guys what it's really like to build a startup from behind the scenes. These are things you will never see in TechCrunch. You're not going to see in the news. One of my favorite parts about kind of living in Silicon Valley for the last 15 years was getting to meet the people who have built the companies that I consider iconic and hearing the behind the scenes stories. And what I will tell you is that they are very different, like polar opposite from what you will hear in the news. So one of the things that Joe and I always said was, hey, when we make it, we're going to go back and tell the real story. And I don't feel like we've made it to any degree, but the goal here is to tell you guys the real story. So what is this recorded, by the way? Okay, cool. So I just have to be a little careful with what I say, but we'll still get into some good stuff. All right, I'm going to go through this pretty fast. How many of you, just to get a quick pulse on the topics that we can cover, how many of you are curious about kind of the early stage founder journey? Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you are curious about finding a co-founder? Couple. Okay, what about product market fit? Okay, a lot of product market fit. What about crypto in particular? Okay, I'm gonna give you two options. Raise your hand if you're more interested about startup journey or more interested about crypto industry. So startup journey, crypto industry. Okay, a lot of people crypto industry. So with that, I will try to tailor the stories to what you guys like. It is more heavily focused on the startup journey, but we'll get into some of the crypto stuff also. All right, so, all right, clicker does not work. Oh, you just gotta press it harder. Okay, let's see. Okay, cool. So this is the title of the talk, 10 launched to 10 billion in 16 months, and which is technically true, but I also want to tell you guys the 10-year journey before that. So the whole point of this is going to be raw and real, and we might have to cut some stuff before it's published live. But and I'm also happy to answer questions because it's kind of a more intimate group. So feel free to raise your hand and ask questions. Okay, so how many of you have heard of Alchemy? Okay, awesome. How many of you guys use Alchemy? Okay, email me afterwards and I'll hook you guys all up with swag and free credits for coming in person to the talk. This is a perk of coming in person. So really, really quickly, high level, can we close that not hearing anything thing? The really quickly, high level, the whole premise of what we're trying to do here is when you think about the three shifts in technology, there's the computer, the internet, and Web3. And these are the shifts of the last 50 years. And the idea is that each of them formed in a similar way, where you have some kind of underlying protocol. So for the computer, that's your RAM, your CPU, your hard drive. But you couldn't do anything until you had user applications, right? Word, Excel, Chrome. That is what made computers usable to kind of everyone on the planet. In order to do that, you needed to have this thing called the operating system, Windows and Mac, as we know it today, that abstracts the underlying technology and makes it really easy to build. And the whole point of this is that now you can spin the cycle of innovation in the industry because developers can build apps, so more users come, so more developers come, and then the operating system gets better to make it more easy to build apps, and so on and so forth. So the idea here is like Windows and Mac were really what was responsible for the computer industry taking off and us having computers today. Similarly, you guys know this, most people don't. There's a company that you've heard of that you've never heard of that powers the entire internet. It's called Amazon. They have two businesses, one where you buy things, the other one is where they make all their money. It's called AWS. AWS, it runs the infrastructure that powers basically every single app that you use today. The interesting thing is in 2021, AWS was 75% of Amazon's profits. 2022, they surpassed and it was 100% of Amazon's profits. So basically Amazon is a compute company. Today, our vision here is to enable developers to really have a big impact on the world by providing them the tools and infrastructure they need to build great applications. So for us, it's really about how do we bring this industry of Web3 to the world, and how do we make it have as big an impact as the internet and PC did? Because internet and computers have virtually impacted life for every person on the planet. And can we do that? Can we help support the people who are making that happen for Web3? And that's kind of been the vision since the very beginning. And I'll talk about a little bit of the backstory about social products we built. One of the interesting things is in our previous company, my co-founder and I, we built like 16 different products, like nothing really worked. And we changed the kind of idea every single time. The really interesting thing is we drew this on a napkin, or actually like a whiteboard in 2017, and it's actually stayed exactly the same. Every time we do like a press announce, all my friends will text me like a picture of like a random piece of paper that we drew this 9-grid on. The reason that is really, also really exciting is when you think about the world of companies, right? There's 250 million businesses in the world. And this kind of piece, technology first, is one industry out of many. These three pieces of technology, PC, internet, Web3, are one tiny slice of that. Then this platform layer is like a very tiny slice of one piece of one industry. The three companies you see here are only 3 out of 250 million. However, those are also the three of the 4 most valuable companies on the planet. Which, do I need to point the clicker a certain way? Oh, there we go. Okay. So if you look at it, not that money is the only measure of success, but it's a proxy for the scale of impact you have. So for us, the goal here is like, can we bring Web3 to the world by providing people the tools and infrastructure they need? So there we go. So this is quick stats. It's actually a little out of date. It's grown like significantly from here. Power a lot of the largest companies. Anytime you're using anything in Web3, there's a good chance under the hood that we power that. A bunch of traditional companies also. You see the Adobes and the Stripes, in addition to some of the biggest Web3 brands. This was the press release. I think I'm wearing the same shirt that I did there. And one of the cool things that we got to see, and again, I don't say this to try to impress you, but to impress upon you guys, this is what the press shows, and then I will show you the behind the scenes. But we were at that time, like in 2021, like the fastest growing company that people had ever seen. And this is from investment firms one of the top investment firms who did DoorDash and Uber and Snapchat and all the kind of like really legendary companies. They measure 3 metrics that are kind of the key metrics. One is revenue growth, another one is sales efficiency, and another one is customer retention. And so this was the chart that they made. The really interesting thing here is that these are like Airbnb, Uber, Dropbox. So it's like normally companies aren't on even one of these graphs. We were on all 3, and that's like super rare. And we were outliers and number 1 on all 3. So again, not to say this to try to impress you, but to impress upon you, this is what you will hear from the media, but this is not the full story because there's a lot of backstory behind this. And then the other thing was like when we did our last round, we were 37 people, and it looks like an overnight success, but it was a 10-year kind of journey, and I feel like we're just getting started as a company even today. So a little bit about the origin story. So I grew up in this small town in Texas. Has anybody heard of Lubbock? Raise your hand. All right, we got a couple people. I went to the Cornell of the West, also known as Stanford. It was an awesome experience. This is a picture of my freshman dorm, jumping in the fountains. There's me. If any Knicks fans here, this is Robin. He played on the Knicks for a while. And this kind of experience for me was like really transformative. It was one of the moments where Steve Jobs quote, you can't connect the dots looking forward, but looking back, you realize the things that really shaped you. And for me, the community in our freshman dorm was really kind of a key part of my life, which we'll talk about later. This was just some more photos from freshman year. During my summers, it was really interesting. I always wanted to do startups. We built a bunch of random stuff, and I kind of knew that from a young age. That was what I wanted to do. But I ended up doing big company internships at Facebook, Google, Microsoft. Very random stories for another time. I don't have time to talk through it today. But the really interesting, I never thought I wanted to work at a big company. The really interesting thing was I actually learned a lot. Not what you would probably think. I actually think, first thing, for those of you who want to do a startup, I think going to a big company is actually a negative thing because it teaches you the wrong things to do. So when you go to a big company, you do the things that are right for Facebook at 2 billion users, But that was not what Facebook did when they had 100 users or 1,000 users or 5,000 users. And that type of thinking is appropriate for the stage of the company. That's a much later stage. And when you go do internships or when you go work there, you actually have to deprogram yourself from those mindsets, right? So if you look at a lot of like the really great companies, they were founded by people who have never worked at a big company before. And I think that's actually like a really important thing. The thing that I got out of it, and I had this kind of really unique experience where I randomly so Microsoft is a 100 building campus. It's like massive. Randomly at these companies, I ended up hanging out, spending a lot of time with the execs. Steve Ballmer was CEO at the time. All the execs were in building 42 on the 4th floor. I was in building 42 on the 3rd floor. Very random, but I emailed him and I was like, hey, we should hang out, and like got him to come to Stanford to come speak at this thing. And at Google, had meetings with Larry and hang out with Sergey. And at Facebook, there's one desk next to Mark, and like that happened to be my desk. Again, don't say this to try to impress you, but impress upon you. I had this like really unique access to these people. And my takeaway from this, and this is the really valuable part of the internships, was these people are super smart and really driven, work really hard, but they're just normal people, right? And if they could do it, we could do it too. And I think that is, if you take nothing away from this whole talk, that is probably the single most important thing I would say that is the key to success for any kind of startup you're doing, or any kind of company, or just like in life in general. I think only like 2 things matter. Number 1, do you have confidence and belief in yourself? Number 2, do you have persistence to keep going when everybody else thinks you should stop? So this was, this is actually kind of a funny throwback also. So this is Steve Ballmer. He had just taken over for Bill Gates as CEO. We got him to come speak at Stanford for this class we ran. This is actually Ali, and there's me. This is Ali. He co-ran the class with me. Then he started the crypto fund at A16Z, and then led our Series C. So it was kind of a cool full circle moment with Ali. And I think, I said this earlier, but like the main lesson I took away was like, they're human and you can do it too. And if you look, one thing I'll also say is like, when you look at a company on the outside, you're like, wow, this is like this amazing thing. And it's like so perfectly run and all this stuff. There's like a secret. Every company on the internal is like a complete shit show. Like most of you don't know this. Facebook almost ran out. I think they had done their $15 billion round already. Like they almost ran out of money and were like really close to shutting down. Facebook had like signed the deal to sell to Yahoo, and then they, the deal fell apart last minute. Like there's so many times when companies like avoid death, and you never ever realize that. But it is as much of a shit show as you're going through right now. It will continue being that way. And if your company gets bigger, it'll just be more of a shit show as you go on. So another thing is like, I like love building stuff. These are like random stupid websites that I've built. Has anybody seen Zoolander? Raise your hand, Zoolander. All right, best movie in history. So I built this site called howtobluesteal.com. And this is a Dropbox folder. I screenshotted this a while ago, so probably closer to like 100 right now, but just like random stuff that I had built. One of the things that I realized was the people who end up building really cool products and companies are the ones who are actually really prolific and build a lot of things. At Facebook, I was playing chess with Mark once, and then I asked him, I was like, hey, did you know Facebook was going to be the thing? And he said, no, like we built like 9 things at Facebook. 9 things before that. And we actually thought this like file sharing thing called Wirehog was going to be the thing, right? So the point is like, you never know what's going to hit. Alchemy was roughly, I think it was our 16th product pivot. And we were pretty confident that the other ones were going to work, and like none of them worked. So the point is like, getting your reps in is really, really, really important. And actually even shipping stuff, like building is very helpful, but like most of the value is actually shipping, because then you get to learn that. So this was one of the first products that I built that went viral. It was kind of events calendar for campus. We built this senior year of college, ended up going to a bunch of colleges across the country and blowing up. It was also one of the most painful lessons I've ever had. It was a bunch of friends joined and wanted to work together. The team fell apart. We like didn't get along. I didn't listen to anyone's advice about being like really careful with who you work with. Everyone told me like, don't just like bring on people you don't know super well. And I will say, like, if you make the one decision that will affect your life more than anything in a startup is who you work with, right? And I'll tell a little bit of the backstory of Joe, because I get a lot of questions like, how did you find your co-founder? I feel super lucky. Joe is like the single best human I've ever worked with. We lived together for 5 years. We're basically like, I officiated his wedding. It's like we are like best friends. Like I think this is was something I'm so grateful for. But also I had kind of interviewed like 63 different people before. I had worked with a bunch of people and no one was quite the right fit. So I would say like, if you were unsure, I think the thing I would say about this is everyone always asks like, how do you know if it's the right fit? If you are unsure, if you have the right co-founder, I would say like co-founder is like product market fit. If you're like, do I have product market fit or do I have the right co-founder? The answer is no. Like if you have product market fit, anybody who's got product market fit will tell you this. I remember one of the early stories, like we were like, do we have product market fit? We were building this social app, and with social apps, there's always this question of, do I just need more users, or do we not have strong enough network effects, or does it not product market fit? And if you're asking that question, you don't have product market fit. So if you're unsure about your co-founder, you should end the relationship. So sorry if that makes things awkward today. Cool. So 2012, I graduated from college, which didn't seem that long ago. Now when I give talks, I'm like, wow, everyone's like half my age. So I feel kind of old. But basically, graduated, didn't apply for any jobs. And I was like, hey, Mark was like, hey, come run this team at Facebook. We'll pay you a good $1 jillion. And I was like, no, I'd rather be poor and kind of like live in a little tiny place and figure it out myself. And I think the reason I thought about that the reason I decided to do that was when I think about my life, I said, hey, you have one shot at life. You don't get multiple chances, right? Religion, reincarnation aside, you only have one choice, right? One chance. So why not try to hit a really big impact? And the way I measure impact is like this number of people. So it's your x-axis times the depth of impact you have on their daily life. And the area under this curve is your impact on the world. So the idea here is that we live in a magical time right now, like absolutely incredible. It is like the best time by far to be alive ever in the history of Earth, right? 20 years ago, what shaped our world? Government, religion, countries. What is it today? Software, right? Facebook, Apple, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Bitcoin, Ethereum. And the idea here is that never before in human history did you have this incredible leverage to positively impact people's lives at a global scale, right? Like a few people can sit on this, like on a bench and type buttons on this magic metal box and build something billions of people across the world use. That was never possible in history before. And it's like such an amazing thing that, everyone here is on the cutting edge of the frontier of that. And I applaud you for picking the right industry to work in. So that to me was really obvious. When I was a little kid, my mom, who started a software company, we had seen Bill Gates on TV, and I was like, oh, who's that guy? And she said, oh, he made Microsoft and brought computers to the world. And I was like, wow, okay, that's amazing. Most kids wanted to be a firefighter or astronaut, or I guess now YouTuber or TikToker. But then I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to build software for everyone on the planet. And then the question was like, how do you like really have positive impact on people's lives? So that was something I thought about a lot. And kind of going back to like that slide I said earlier on with the freshman dorm, really close to your friends, I said like, yeah, I want to like really, actually, even before that happened, we had started building this company that was kind of this life coaching, personal development thing, because I was an RA in college. And basically we like moved into this house in Palo Alto. This house, I actually didn't realize at the time, Yahoo, which no one talks about today, but was like one of like the OG internet company. Amazon was actually only around because Yahoo listed them on their website. Yahoo's the #1 site in the world, and Amazon took off because of that. Yahoo was started out of this house, and then after that, many years after, there was another company there, and we took over the house a little bit after those guys, and they came to pick up their motorcycle. And John was like, oh, I'm working at this company. I was like, oh, what's it called? He's like, Stripe. I was like, yeah, I've never heard of it. That's cool. And so Stripe was actually out of this house also. So then we lived here with a bunch of our friends, 2 houses of 10 guys. And, I was like, all right, great. We're just going to like build $1 billion company. Here we go. Build the next Facebook. And that like was actually not what happened. So 6 months out of college, I realized, so I was like kind of working on this product with this guy. We had met, we were kind of trialing out the co-founder thing, and basically like my entire life fell apart. So I was like, I don't think this product's working. I don't think it's a good fit with the co-founder. He's like, nice dude, but like just not the right fit. And so I basically just gave him everything. I was like, you take it. I don't give me any equity. Don't keep the product. Just like take it. And I'll go figure out what I want to do. So don't know what I'm doing. I'm also really lonely because I missed all my friends. I'm surrounded by all my friends in college. And then, everyone post-college kind of really misses their friends, but you have your work friends, you have your social life. I didn't have any of that because I was like working by myself. And then I got dumped by my long-term girlfriend, which I was like crushed. And I like did not know what I was doing in my life, right? So 6 months ago, I told Mark Zuckerberg, yo, I'm gonna go build the next Facebook. I didn't say it in like those words, but that's what I thought in my head. And then basically 6 months later, I'm one block off campus and I have nothing to show. I'm lonely, heartbroken, don't know what I'm doing in my life. And I was like, this was not like the plan. This is not the plan. However, I do have this philosophy that, and this is a graph in case it helps explain. Okay, so looking back, I had this philosophy at the time, which has played true through like every one of my like kind of major life experiences. Anytime I'm like, hey, this is like the worst thing to happen, and I can point to, for the sake of time, I don't have time to tell you guys all these stories because we're already halfway through. But every single time I'm like, hey, man, this is like the worst thing to happen. I look and I'm like, hey, there's a short-term good to this, and like maybe X, Y, Z, and then long-term, I'm like, hey, that was literally the best thing to happen, even though it was the most painful thing at the time. It had shaped my life in a way that I'm so grateful for now that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So for me, this experience was this realization when I was like, why am I so sad? Like I'm temporally and spatially very close to my past experience. I live one block off campus. I'm 6 months out of college, but why is my emotion so difficult? We're so different. And what I realized was the number one thing that determines your happiness is the people in your life, right? Like what if you could really be surrounded by all the people you loved, inspired you, motivated you, made you be like the best kind of happiest person ever. And it was kind of like, for me, that analogy is like my freshman dorm. Like how do I create that kind of family experience? And everyone said, look, that's not possible because you're not physically present with people, but that would be like the best thing ever. So, anytime somebody says, hey, you can't do it, my mom always says, you want to go do that. And basically, so we said, I'm going to build software. And when I thought about those two axes, I want to build software that lets people like really have the people in their life every single day. So we're like, all right, here's the mission and here's what we're going to do. So this is when I met my co-founder, Joe. I'll do a quick, how many people wanted to know about co-founder? Raise your hand. Okay, decent amount. So I'll go pretty quickly through this because I added this section because I get so many questions about how do you meet your co-founder. The short answer to this, you're not going to like, is it's always different for every person. So I can't give you like a formula on how to meet your co-founder. The thing I will say about this is like pick someone who's like has long-term values aligned with yours and your working styles are similar and you handle stress in a similar way, right? Like Joe and I are very chill, but also very competitive. Like 99% of the time, we're super chill. Even when stuff is not going well, we're the first ones to crack a joke. But if it's a competition, like we will win no matter what. And so I met Joe. This is Joe. This is at one of our New York parties. I met Joe because we were the teaching assistants for the database class at Stanford. This is kind of another cool like connecting the dots backwards that you can't see forwards. We met. Normally this class was really easy. You're like way overpaid as a Stanford computer science TA. We were teaching the database class that quarter. Normally has 100 students. That quarter they said, hey, let's do this thing called online learning that no one had ever done before. And let's put all our courses online for free. So 100,000 people signed up that quarter to do this. And it was like the craziest quarter to TA. I probably made like 1 cent an hour for the amount of hours I worked. And right after that, that spun out and became Coursera. So it was like kind of the first big kind of education company, and they IPO'd last year. Joe and so I was like the first unpaid employee of Coursera. So Joe and I, the reason it's interesting looking back is like, databases are the precursor to blockchains. And we were also thrown into startup life from like day one when we met. So that was kind of interesting. So, we never hung out outside being TAs or whatever. Then when I moved to that house, the first thing you do when you move to house is you need a 5.1 surround sound speaker system to host parties. So I looked on Craigslist and I was like, hey, we need this system. And turns out August 28, 2012, it was Joe. He was selling it off Craigslist and he gave me the friend discount. Instead of 50, he gave it to me for $40. So 20% off. Thank you, Joe. And he was like, oh, like, let's hang out. And it was funny because we made this app about, my response was like classic. My phone is always dead. And I was like, hey, do you want to get lunch? You'll see we made this app about getting lunch later. So a little foreshadowing there. So he sells me speakers. We still don't connect. I go and interview 63 of the best Stanford CS engineers. And I was like, none of them were like quite the right fit. And I think I was probably over rotated because I had 2 co-founder things that like didn't go well. And it was super heartbreaking for me. So especially the first one. So I was like very, very sensitive to this. The other thing I get a question a lot is like, do I need a co-founder? Here are my thoughts on that. Everyone said you can't do it without a co-founder. I don't think that's true. I think you can do it as a solo founder. But I think it is way, way, way easier, way better, way more fun to have a really great co-founder because you get to like balance each other emotionally. You get to enjoy that experience with someone. I would 100% say go find a co-founder. Then another question I get is how many co-founders should I have? Should it be 1, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people? And I think the right answer. So the answer is you can do it in any way possible, but I think the answer is 2 is optimal. 3 is also good. I wouldn't go more than 3. And I would say like try to get 2 if you can, or sorry, one other person. So finally, we actually like reunited. 3rd time's the charm. Joe posted this Facebook post back in the day when people used Facebook. It's kind of like Instagram, but it was like the pre-version for any of you who don't know what Facebook is. So he said, "Hey, it appears I've been burgled. Kind of annoying life experience to have." And he had this like he misplaced his laptop and a couple of stacks of cash. And everyone's like, "I'm so sorry, dang, that sucks, blah blah blah." And I was like gonna comment, but I was like, it's kind of mean, so let me just message him. I was like, "Yeah, man, like I'm sorry about your stuff, but like who are you? Like who has stacks of cash lying around their house, right?" And he was like, "No, I just sold my TV. It's like not drugs or anything." But basically, I was looking for iOS or Android engineer. He was like, "Oh, I'm in Hawaii for a wedding. Let's hang out when I'm back." And we ended up going to the Counter Burger in Palo Alto on California Ave and doing kind of this like 6-hour heart-to-heart dinner, like totally unexpected. They're turning off the lights, throwing water at us, like trying to get us out of the restaurant, and we're just sitting there. And we decided to work together. This is our team took our press release photo and put this on there. So this is one of the things about Alchemy. If you have any photos of you on the internet, like you will get memed and get really embarrassed. And this showed up. I saw this when it was posted on our all hands slides. This was our kind of initial hacker house, and I put pictures in here so you guys get a sense of like what it was like. That was one of my favorite parts when like I saw talks from other people. So this hacker house, we put whiteboards all over the wall. The landlord was like very nice guy. We like whiteboarded the whole house. We installed a hot tub. We installed speakers. He was like super chill about it. And we kind of told him after we did it. So never rent your house to college kids. So this is me. This is Joe. This is DPhil. He's in my freshman dorm now, and he works with us. These are Jerry and Maron. They're 2 Stanford CS profs. I think we had a Silicon Valley movie night. And this Sarah's Joe's like wife now. And that's the speaker that Joe sold me. Okay, quickly into Startup Life. How are we doing on time? Okay, we have 15 minutes. Okay, so we built a bunch of stuff. So this is one of the first apps we built to kind of share your emotions. We built a lot of things, and I mean a lot. Like this was a random side project that like showed all the stuff in your fridge, and your friends could comment on it. Ratemyfridge.com. I think it's still up. We built a bunch of things. We also learned a lot of the hustle today. And if you look at a lot of like the really great companies, like they all had like incredible amounts of hustle. So we went to Berkeley and dressed up as students and went around. I get a question like, why not Stanford? Stanford's not a representation of real life. Like when we went to Stanford and user tested, we had these interns. We're like, okay, go door to door at the dorm and go like user test your app. And they come back and I was like, how'd it go? He's like, well, and we were supposed to show them the app and get feedback. He's like, well, when I went up to the first person, I knocked on the door and I was like, hey, I'm building this app. Can I get feedback? And they actually said, oh, I'm actually building an app too. Can I get feedback on my app? So I was like, all right, we're going to Berkeley now. So we went to Berkeley and dressed up as students and kind of like built like rapidly user tested feedback. One of the really important things is there's a lot of lessons that we learned here. Maybe one lesson to kind of share: decrease your cycle time. Like that is like the single most important part of finding product market fit. And what that means is you need to decrease the time between you shipping, getting feedback on your product, and building a new version. So back in the day, when we built social apps, it took a week to 2 weeks to get approved by Apple. You put the app in the App Store for submission, and then you get approved like a week or 2 later. So if you think about a big company like Facebook, let's say they're building Instagram or Messenger, You build an app, maybe it takes a week or two. You ship the app, it takes a week or two. Then you get feedback from data from users. That's another week or two. Then you build another app version, another week or two. Then you submit again, and then it's out again, right? So you're talking like a month and a half to 2 months of that cycle. So what we did is we went to Berkeley, we dressed up as students, and we basically like would show someone the app, would say, hey, we're an intern. You don't ever want to tell people you built it because they won't give you real feedback. They'll just be too nice. So you say, we're an intern, can you look at this app? And we get feedback, we'd watch them use it. And then we'd sit down on the steps of Sprawl Plaza and we'd plug the phone into our computer. We'd recode the app right there, hit ship, and then show the next person, right? So when you cut that cycle time for 2 months to 2 minutes, it's like people couldn't compete with us. Like that was the key. And like that's one of like the key lessons that we took to building Alchemy in the early days. And I'll share stories about that. This was us. This is the New York Times taking a photo for us. 4 years, we built 12 products. Nothing worked. And it was, this is like Joe and I, just to give you context, Joe and I were living out of our apartment, making no money. And basically like all my friends are getting married, having kids, making millions of dollars, like doing all this stuff. We're basically like college students still. We're literally living out of our apartment. We have no money. 2019, I'll talk about this later. 2019 was the year I was like, we made it. I think we had, I'll talk about this later, but a little foreshadowing. We raised our Series A. We started paying ourselves a real salary for the first time. It was like less than a new grad makes at Facebook, but I'm 9 years out of undergrad, 7 years out of grad school, and then I got guacamole and Chipotle for the first time, and I was like fucking killing it at life. That was a big moment for me. But one of the things was we always had a lot of fun. And these are us with our Berkeley shirts. They had this. I thought this was really funny. They had this shirt that said Voldemort went to Stanford. So for context, Berkeley is like our big rival. If you guys didn't know that, they said Voldemort went to Stanford, and then I was like, guys, that means Stanford is Hogwarts, and you guys are one of those kind of shitty side schools. So I don't know if it was fully thought through. Yeah, this was just some of the moments. So then we said, nothing's really working, and we're like, let's try one more thing. And we built this app to auto text our friends, and we just press a button and it messages our friends. And we're like, no one's going to use this. It wasn't even on the App Store. It was on my Facebook account. That was the only way you could download it. We had this enterprise build, which you're not even supposed to do. And we basically like built this app. It blows up, and there's, it's obviously a story in there also, but for the sake of time, it blows up. Then we have the smear campaign, and then everyone stops using it. And then we're like, well, we don't have anything else, so we got to keep going. And then I think it was 2017. So 5 years in, 7 years out of grad school, we had our first overnight success, which was great. Number one social app in the world. And it's like kind of crazy to wake up. And back in the day when App Store have rankings, like this was like to wake up and see your product more popular than all these apps. It's actually really funny. We had the smear campaign. New York Times everyone wanted to come do press about us. We said no, we don't want press because we don't want people to know how well we're doing. We want to stay under the radar. And New York Times came and did 3 days of photo shoots, but we had the smear campaign, so we're like, fine, you can do a story to clear our name. And basically, I said, look, guys, you can write whatever you want, but at the time, I was like, okay, I'm single. All I ask is just make me look attractive. So after 3 days of photo shoots, I still have a vendetta against these guys. This is the photo they choose. It's like literally food falling out of my mouth. They put it on the front page business cover story. I was furious. I was like super upset about this. All right, 2017, moving on. 2017 was really the realization that there was this new shift in technology happening. So you had computers, which, this idea that machines follow instructions, the internet, which is the idea that machines can kind of exchange information. And then this new thing was happening called blockchain, where we're like, machines can exchange value with each other. This is really cool. And one of the cool things was like, the way we actually really got into it, we were just talking about this before, there's these guys building this Bitcoin company called Wire downstairs in our apartment complex, and we were upstairs, and we'd host these parties and play beer pong together, and we'd like talk about crypto like late at night. And Joe and I always like really believed in it, but we were like very focused on kind of our mission and of social apps and basically bringing people together. But there was something that really shifted for us where we said, this is the first new primitive that for programming that has been created since the internet. Like, even if you look at things like AI, right? I did AI for 6 years in college. I did AI research. It's like a very transformational foundational technology, but AI is really just a combination of these two things: machines following instructions and machines exchanging information, right? It's like built on these two building blocks. This is the first new building block that happened. That to us was a key. We're like, we don't know if this is going to be successful, but this is something that, if it is, kind of the Jeff Bezos regret minimization framework, if this does become really big, now's a chance where we can build like the Apple, the Amazon, right? The Microsoft, the Google, like these kind of companies were built in the early days. And it was funny because in 2017, we felt like we missed it. We felt like, oh, it's too late. We already missed the whole thing. Obviously, it was like early, but when you look at these shifts, there's a tectonic shift like every 20 years, and this is kind of like actually stayed true, right? So computer, this is the year when Microsoft and Apple were founded. Internet, 20 years later, and then blockchain really started taking off in 2017. So just to also give you a sense of like what it was like behind the scenes, this was us brainstorming. We have all these different ideas: decentralized Instagram, like game platform, Bloomberg for crypto, like all these things. And this was the idea that we actually ended up going with first. So first we built this kind of data science machine learning platform that would help hedge funds trade. And this is not actually like a mock. This is just like a random piece of scratch paper I found, but it's the only one I could find. And I draw slightly better than this, but basically like this was us, we would whiteboard out all the stats we wanted to do. Here's us coding. The team doesn't believe it now, but Joe and I built all of our early infrastructure. We coded every day of our lives for like 15 years. So when someone was like, you know how to code? I was like so offended. This was the first product that we built. It's kind of like shows you all the price of different tokens. We had a bunch of metrics, all this stuff, this hedge fund platform. This was also just one of the things I always felt was like it was always like super fun. This is like random Joe quote. He's like, mozzarella sticks are like cardio. It's like hard on your heart, so it makes your heart stronger. And he bought like 30 mozzarella sticks. Like literally the other day we got a flight and he pulls out this Arby's sandwich. And I was like, where'd you get Arby's? We don't have Arby's in San Francisco. He's like, I brought it back from Pittsburgh 2 days ago, and he like stockpiled it. So junk food connoisseur. This is the loft we used to work in. This is our apartment. This is Joe wearing this free t-shirt that he like literally still wears to this day. This Angelina, she was like our first teammate. And it was that's actually a good story. When we had the Down to Lunch app, I was like, hey, the app was blowing up. We need someone to mail stickers to some of our users. And I posted in this, one of my freshman friends posted in this Berkeley kind of Facebook group, and Angelina responded and she said, hey, and I said, hey, I just need someone to mail stickers. She's like, how long is this job? I was like, honestly, probably just for tomorrow. And you should just come and, we'll figure it out. That was 8 years ago. She's with us to this day, and it's kind of like a key part of Alchemy and all the culture. So the big realization we had was this. As we were building this, and this is how we came up with the diagram. It wasn't us just building in a kind of vacuum. The idea was, as we were building this hedge fund product, we're like, man, this is so difficult. Like, we have master's degree in artificial intelligence in infrastructure from Stanford. If we can't figure out how to code, like how is this going to be possible for everyone around the world who's like new to coding, trying to figure out this industry? Like we have to make it really easy to build. So we came up with this idea of Alchemy Developer Platform. But we said it's too early. Like the market was not ready. In order for this business to work, you have to have customers at the application level. And there's no real successful applications at the time. So we said we can't build this. So we waited a year to do that. And basically, this was the new office. So this is Michael from Wire and Yanni from Wire. This is the office we moved into. Apparently we don't have access, top secret, so I can't show you the video. The other thing to say is, we had never made any money my entire life. Like at this point, the most money I'd ever made was 5th grade. I set up a popsicle stand on the golf course and made like $6. Like we had made more money at that popsicle stand than we did in all of our consumer social startups because we didn't charge for any of the products. And then suddenly we made $500,000 pre-product. We sold the product before we even built it, and we said, hey, we want like we will build this for you, but you don't get to keep it. It's for us, and you get to license it. And I was like, man, we made it. Like this is it, right? And the question was like, do we have product market fit, right? And I was going to make people guess, but you guys know the rest of the story. So the answer was No, we did not have product market fit. Even though people paid us a lot of money and people really wanted the product, we did not have product market fit because the industry was really early. The hedge funds didn't know what they wanted. We had too few customers. One of the things that's really important, and I'm trying to like distill as many lessons as I can into this talk, when you're building a 0 to 1 product, the only metric that matters, the key metric, is not revenue, none of this stuff. It is number of customers and retention of those customers, right? So if you're building a 0 to 1 product, optimize for number, not total dollar value, because it shows you that your market is actually wants what you're building. So then we were like, okay, and this is another one of those things where we lost this huge deal. And I was so pissed about this. Like I was furious about this. It was to Bloomberg. We were supposed to power all of Bloomberg's data. We were clearly the best product. There was no one else that had anything. And they went with this guy who had no product, but he had a PowerPoint and a fancy suit. I didn't have a suit or a PowerPoint. And they went with him. And even the team was like, their team was like, this is the wrong decision, but like our boss wants to go with this guy, right? And I was furious. I was like so pissed. I'd flown to New York 3 times for this deal, and it was like so frustrating. And you know, this is one of those moments looking back, you know, where I said like, hey, you know, this is a really good thing. If we had signed that deal, we would, and right after that, I was like, this product's not going to work. We have to pivot the company, and we're going to go developer platform now, right? And that was what ended up taking off. And if we had signed that deal with Bloomberg, if we had gotten that deal, we would have been locked into a 3-year contract, and we would have supported them, and we wouldn't have built Alchemy as it today. And the company probably would have died, right? So that was one of those things where looking back, I'm like, man, we pulled like a Matrix, like dodged a bullet there. So the 16th pivot, we built what you know Alchemy today, the developer platform. So how we did it, first we emailed 50 customers because we were like, we want to make sure we know what people want. We don't want to just build random stuff. Normally, it would have taken 6 to 9 months to build because we had already built the system internally for the hedge fund customers. But we said, you know, I said, we're going to build it in a week. And everyone's like, it is not possible to build this in a week. It will take many months. I was like, we're going to build it in a week. And they're like, you can't even build a marketing website in a week. I was like, why do we need a marketing website? They're like, how are people going to know about us? I was like, well, just tell people about it in person. And they're like, well, you can't build docs. I was like, why do we need docs? Because, you know, it's the same kind of API that everyone else uses. And then they were like, well, you can't even build a dashboard. I was like, why do you need a dashboard? They're like, well, you need to show customers how their usage is going. I was like, we'll just tell them. It's like, well, you can't even get your API keys if you don't have a dashboard. I was like, we'll just text it to them, right? So we literally built it in a week. I think it ended up being 10 days. And that was like 0 lines of code to onboarding the first customer. Our first customer ever was this guy. I was like, no one's ever going to use this product. It was a random side thing. It's called CryptoPunks. Still kicking myself because you could just go claim them, and I like didn't. And now they're worth like $1 million a pop. And this is our first customer. And really, like the lesson here, Joe has this great quote that the big don't eat the small, the fast eat the slow. And that is so true. And you wonder how these like small startups can come compete with the Facebook, the Google, the Amazon, the Microsoft. It's because speed is what wins. And optimize for speed in your early days. So Joe and Mike went to Prague to DevCon and begged people. They literally begged everyone to try our product. And that's how we got our first customers. The other thing is we put everyone in Telegram chat. This is a secret that we used to have. And when we built the social app, we put our phone number in there. We started getting 50,000 text messages a day. We broke iMessage, had to email Tim Cook and get his help kind of fixing our phones and stuff. It turns out we were the top 10 iMessage users in the world. We had more texts than Justin Bieber. And it was kind of this crazy experience. We took the same thing to Alchemy. And so we had Telegram chats, all our customers. See this number, 58,934 messages. That is what life is like. Joe and I also were like, you know, we were customer support, and I have the strong kind of feeling that engineers should be doing customer support. So this is us moving apartments because we're really cheap and we didn't hire movers, and we were literally moving furniture and responding to one of our customers, Kyber, at like 3 a.m. or 10 p.m. As we're moving. Our first users were CryptoPunks, OpenSea, Dapper Labs, which kind of invented NFTs, CryptoKitties, NBA Top Shot. Again, these were random small companies outside CryptoKitties, like random small companies. This was our 2 friends building this website. We're like, yeah, I don't even know what this NFT thing is in 2018. But ended up, what you saw as the companies that stayed ended up being doing well. So we built for years. So just to give you a sense, so at this point we are 2020 December. And 3 minutes. So 2020 December, I'm 10 years out of undergrad, 8 years working on a startup. We built 15 products. This was our 16th product. We have nothing to show, right? Like we have some users. We have a few people on our team. We're making, a tiny bit of money. I think like we had just hit $1 million in revenue, but that's basically nothing, right? My friends are getting married, buying houses, having kids, like having, just like throwing up their money in happiness. And Joe and I are like poor and, living in our apartment, but we're having a lot of fun. So at this time, this big company, I can't say who, comes to buy us for a third time. We're like, should we sell? No, we always enjoy what we're doing. They bought another company for almost $500 million. And people were like, was that the right choice? Like that could have been you. And we were like, man, but we said, look, if crypto takes off, we know this is going to be a thing, and we know crypto will take off. We think 2 to 5 years, maybe 1 to 3 years, maybe 10 years, but we really love what we're doing. If we had infinite money, we would do exactly what we're doing now. So we started building again. This was December 2020. 30 days later, crypto takes off. At this time, we're 13 people, no recruiter, no sales, no marketing. We spent $0 on customer acquisition. January, the company was worth $72 million. February, we did a round at 500. September, we did a round at 3.5. 55 days later, we did a round at 10. And we actually, like, even to this day, have not touched the money from any of these rounds. It's like all in the bank. And I think only just dipped into the last round, tiny bit. And this was the whole team at the time. It was 37 people, kind of one of the highest like team to impact ratios. The thing was like right after that, the market tanked. You see the market go down by like 84%. And this is, I can't share like the full stats, but basically like Alchemy was powering developers who were building in the space. And this to us was like the great sign, not even about us, but people still care about crypto and people are still building, right? And this is the number of people who are building in the space. So I think the last lesson, which I'm wrapping up and I have a hard stop, is be a cockroach. One of our investors said, hey, you guys, I'm so proud of you guys. You guys were like cockroaches. You never gave up and kept on coming back stronger and stronger. I never like confirmed with him. I was like, do you mean like smell or looks or persistence? I was like hoping it was persistence, but we'll just take it as that. And at the end of the day, it's very simple. Like we want to like have a big impact for every person on the planet, and we want to have a lot of fun while we're doing it. And that to us is like one of our kind of like core values. And it's always like a blast, right? And like these are kind of some of the photos, experiences. Our chicken nugget power hour. This was one of our holiday parties. This is our Halloween thing. This is a lot of stories. So in conclusion, I think and kind of like a lot of people, the thing I'm most proud of, not the press, not the money, but everyone coming to me and saying, hey, this is not just the best experience I've had for work, but also like the best friends I've had. So last slide, I'll just say, we're still super early. Here we are today, here is the opportunity. And this is not an Alchemy thing. This is everyone in this room building together to bring Web3 to the world. And I think it's like such an honor to support you guys, to power you guys, and to kind of be a small part in that journey. So just remember, it's day one and we're all just getting started. So thanks. I'm assuming we don't have time for Q&A. I will hang out after if people have questions.
Thank you so much, Nikil. This was fantastic and just refreshing in our afternoon. And so if you guys want to stick around, we're going to have Goon from Avalabs come out relatively soon in the next couple of minutes. So feel free to hang out.